Hello, just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be playing around with the Dark Lights bundle, and that includes the latest limited edition 20 colour palette from Beauty Bay. And this is what it looks like on the inside. I'm showing it to you at a bit of an angle so that it's not quite so washed out. And then I'll turn this off as well, so I can show it to you head on, and that's better. A bit truer to colour. Dark Lights is a very appropriate name for this palette because it is a very dark colour story, and it definitely reminds me of nighttime, you know, a night sky, that kind of colour story here. As I say, I got the bundle, so it had a mini high key mascara, which I'm not keeping. I've got the full size and I don't like that mascara. I bought it to try it, not a fan. It also had these Bouncy Beam Shimmer Stick Trios. Well, it's just one trio, but there's three of them. And they are in the shades Set List, FOMO and Gold Hoops. So I'll show you swatches of the palette, swatches of the trio, and then what I'm also going to do is insert some footage where I have swatched what I think are the most similar shades, because something that struck me when I first saw the stock images of the palette is that a lot of the shades looked very similar. There seemed to be pairs in there that looked identical almost. It looks better to me once I saw actual images rather than the stock image, but just so you can see those shades that perhaps looked samey in the stock image, I've swatched those next to each other so you can see that too. While you have a look at those, I'm going to ponder which direction I'm going to go in with each of these looks, one on each eye. Here are all 20 swatches of the Beauty Bay Dark Lights palette, and I currently have my little side light on, but I'll switch that off momentarily. Here it is with the lights off. These are the three Bouncy Beam Shimmer Stick Trios that I've got a bit further down my arm. So with the light off and with the light on. And that's everything all together so you can see. Considering they've come out with these three shimmer sticks, it's odd to me that they've decided to go with such a shimmer heavy palette. If ever there was a time to go for a palette that's a bit more matte heavy, now when you're releasing a glossy bounce shimmer stick trio would probably be the time for that. I don't mind, because I love shimmers, but if you're someone who prefers to have a nice solid foundation in the form of mattes, it seems odd that this is the time Beauty Bay have decided to go with that ratio. So I've zoomed you in. I've got a bare face apart from the Danessa Myricks Nude Colour Fix in shade 9. And I think what I'm going to do is, well, I say night and day. It's not really going to be night and day, but I'm going to try and do a lighter look, and then I'm going to lean into the depth of this palette. With that in mind, I'm going to start with the shade Sleepless. I must admit, when this was revealed, I was 50-50 about this palette, because I quite liked the fact that Beauty Bay have gone dark, and I'm very much to the side. What's happened there? There we go. I definitely appreciate the fact that Beauty Bay have gone dark, especially after complete misses like Daydreamer, where it was very light, even perhaps for some of the palest of the pale. Well, maybe not the palest of the pale, but it was a very, very light colour story. And now they've kind of gone in the other direction again towards what Celestial Charm was. So there was a very deep palette overall, which again had a few shades that were perhaps a bit too similar. There were maybe one or two purples that didn't quite need to be in that palette. I think we could have done without. I can't remember, I'm trying to think of the last time that Beauty Bay did like a really balanced colour story. Maybe something like Desert Haze. So Desert Haze was perhaps a darker colour story, but probably a nice balance. But the thing with Desert Haze for me is I get creasing with the shimmers. And I don't know why that is, because I don't believe I get creasing with other Beauty Bay shadows. So I don't know what that's about. I was going to go in with Pulse, but I think that Pulse is perhaps too much on the same level as Sleepless. So I'm going to go with Shady, just to deepen things up here. Yeah, Shady is good. And I'm just going to take this in and slightly above my crease. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of eyeing the shimmers in here, and I'm wondering what way I'm going to go with the shimmers. This is a very shimmer heavy palette, so I mentioned this when I did the swatches. I'm all for lots of shimmers. I love a shimmer, but I know a lot of people who do prefer a higher ratio of mattes. Right, just going back into Sleepless there, and I took it a bit high, getting a good blend there, and then back into Shady. 13 shimmers out of 20. Now that's a choice. Now perhaps the thinking behind this is because it is meant to be dark lights, it's meant to be the contrast of the starry night in a dark sky. I don't know, who knows. But I know that this is not going to be one for everyone. I'm quite partial to a bit of depth. I'm quite partial to a bit of shimmer. So this palette could be right up my street. I don't know if I want to add any more depth, maybe just a touch. So I'm going to dip ever so lightly into Underground, just to go on the corner, because I may well use Underground on the other eye, but I just want just a little bit more depth on this side, just a little bit. I think we're ready for shimmers, and I don't think I want to put NYX down, at least not yet. I think maybe next time I use this, and I know I'm going to have it on for longer, I will put down some NYX. Thinking about the shimmers here, I think I'm going to put 3 AM on the outside. So this is a bit more of a satiny shimmer. It doesn't have like intense sparkle, so this is quite smooth. Yeah, that's perfect. This would pop a little bit more with a tacky base, but I just want to see what these are like without a tacky base first, because I want this to be light. it's going to be Silhouette or All Nighter, I think. Silhouette. Let's go with Silhouette. No, that's Silhouette. Okay, and then I'm going to get a flat brush, so like a reference number 2, and I always do this just to sort of tidy up the shimmers and get right into the corner there. So back into 3 AM. Wipe, flip, Silhouette. Okay, so I might leave that eye for the time being and head on over to the other eye. Yeah, this I'm going to go darker, so maybe I'll start with Pulse. And this is just almost to kind of set the crease. I mean, it doesn't need setting, but this is just what I'm going to blow out throughout the crease and above. And I wonder if you can see here what I mean about, I mean, you can't see much of Sleepless anymore. It's kind of right on the edge here. But I wonder now that I've put Pulse down, if you see what I mean, where I say it's on that same kind of depth level. So I don't think I could have used Pulse to deepen up Sleepless. Do I do a bit of a halo? Like I filmed a different video and I did a bit of a halo and I quite liked that, so I might do it again. Do I do it with Nocturnal? Or, I know I've used Underground, but I did only use it a little bit. No, let's use Nocturnal, so it's not super dark, but it's quite dark. And this is a very deep blue shade. Having said that, now that I've put it on there, that doesn't look very, very deep at all. It's brighter than I thought it was going to be. Maybe I do use Underground. Let's see what Underground looks like. Yeah, that has more depth. Because I am trying to use as many shades as I can. In hindsight, maybe I should have used Nocturnal to deepen things up on the other side, but I don't really know what I'm doing anymore, but I'm going to roll with it and I'm going to see what happens. Yeah, I'm effectively just covering up Nocturnal with Underground. All of these dark shades, and there isn't actually a black in sight. I'm not saying it needs a black, it's just quite surprising, I would say, that a palette with this kind of colour story, they haven't thought, oh, let's throw in a black. Shimmer wise, there's quite a nice deep blue shimmer called Headliner. I might put some of that on. Doesn't want to seem to stay down. Obviously I know I haven't put an adhesive on, so I'm picking up my reference number 2 again. Might wet this. Looks better. I think this would benefit from NYX though. Okay. I do feel like I've really had to lay that on there, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Normally I probably would put some kind of adhesive on, but I want to see what works best for longevity and not getting creasing. And it did go on better once I'd wet the brush. And then I want electric, I think. So let's put electric down the center here. I'm going to pick up another flat brush that I haven't used yet, and I'm just going to use this flat brush to get on a bit more electric and tidy things up. Okay, and then as I mentioned, just going back into underground. A little bit on the inside. A little bit on the outside. I'm going to put some concealer on and then we can come back and do the underneath. Now let's go back to the first eye, and I'm probably just going to run maybe shady underneath, smoked out with a bit of Sleepless. Let's try that. So this is a LO3. This is the Blend Bunny and Lynn's brush set, LO3. Shady. And I'm going to run that underneath like so. And then dip into Sleepless to just soften it a little bit underneath. My trusty little inner corner highlight brush, which is better known as the 237 Detail Shader from Zoeva, and it was Silhouette I used, so I'm just going to put some Silhouette on there. And carry it through to the inner corner, like so. And then on the, I want to call this the Van Gogh side. Are you seeing that? I feel like this is the Van Gogh side. Yeah, so on the Van Gogh side, I'm going to go underneath with Nocturnal. Similar brush, this is just the yellow 4 now. Do I want to put a bit of sparkle inside? I feel like I want something, or do I put a bit of Beam in, which is actually the matte? Will Beam ruin it? It's only makeup, it washes off. Let's put in Beam, which is like the matte white shade. Yeah, I think that works. That works. Maybe a little odd, but we're going with it. I felt like it was missing something and I didn't just want to put electric there again. There we go. I'm going to line and put on some mascara, and I will use the high key, but my old high key, just because we're using the bundle. So I will use high key, and then I'm going to come on with almost everything on apart from blush, because I did pick up one of the duos in the shade Grape Juice, so we're going to try that out. So I'll be back with almost everything on my face. Both eyes complete. I have put on some liner, just my usual Clinique, and as I mentioned, I have put on the high key mascara. I think I don't like the wand. I think if the bristles on the wand were longer, it would lead to separation and I might like the mascara more. But to me, I think this looks clumpy. So I don't know if you can even tell I've got mascara on there. Maybe you can, but I'll close my eyes. I don't know if that makes any difference, if you can see what the mascara looks like, but I'm Still not a fan. I prefer it. I think now it's been opened up and it's had a little bit of time to dry out a little bit. You know, sometimes with mascara, once you've had it open, it hits this sweet spot. So I think it is better, but I'm still not keen. I just think it's clumped them together too much. But you let me know what you think of this mascara. So we've got the sort of smoked purple side here, and then, as christened before, the Van Gogh side. Do you have a favourite? I mean, the Van Gogh side is more striking, possibly because of the way I've done it. I don't know if it would be as striking if I hadn't done it halo-y. So I think I'm gonna have to give it to Van Gogh. I am. I did consider a red lip, and then I thought maybe a red lip might be a bit much with this look. In fact, I think it works with this, but I don't know that it goes with this. So rather than a full-on red lip like Ruby Woo, what I've done instead is I've used this Fenty combo. So I bought this a little while back, and I've used the lip liner and I've used the gloss, but I haven't actually used them together, which is bizarre. So I've used them together for the first time today. And this is the Cherry Duo. Browned out is the liner, and the gloss bomb is in the shade Cherry Amour. I wanted to get 3 of these actually, because they had a 3 for 2 offer on, and I thought, let me get like a nice spread, like one purpley one pinky one, and the peach one. But they were selling out as I was adding them to my basket. They just kept selling out. And then when I ordered this, they had 50% off. I can't get into the box. I'm just gonna have to rip it, aren't I? Because it's just not happening. Yes, so it was 50% off, and I thought, okay, let me go for one of the purpley ones, which is grape juice. And I don't know if it's going to go with either look. It probably will go more with this one, but that's what we're going to try today. That's what the little compact looks like. It's quite sturdy actually. It looks quite good. And then it's split on the inside, and then you've got this section here, which I'm guessing it's supposed to lift up. It seems to be a bit stuck. There we go. So that's going to be the cream side and the powder side. This is my Refer number 4 that I like to use, which is in desperate need of clean. All my brushes are. I'm trying to clean off as much of the old pigment that's on my Refer number 4, but it's horrifically stained, so please ignore that. That's quite pigmented. So that's just the cream side. No, it works, it works. That's the cream side. I want to see what just the powder side looks like on the other side. So there's a bit of kick up there. Oh, that's also pigmented. Yep, little goes a long way. This probably wouldn't be a blush you'd be hitting pan on in a hurry. So that's just the powder, and that's just the cream. So I'd say they're quite level. I've gone a bit, I wasn't expecting it to be quite as pigmented as that. So I've gone a bit extra, but then I am quite heavy-handed with my blush anyway. So this side has obviously just got the sheen because it's a cream, and then this is completely matte because it's just the powder. What I will do now is very lightly go back into the powder and just go over the cream. Go lightly, guys, go lightly. I think when the peachy one comes back, I do want to try that one. That was the shade I was most curious about, but I think that's one of the first ones that sold out. I'm perhaps looking a bit clowny, but I know it will settle because it always does. My face eats blush. But that's pretty. It doesn't go with what my eye look, I don't think. I think it's probably a bit much, especially with these lips. I'm looking a little bit Ronald McDonald, I'm not gonna lie. But as a blush I do like that, and I probably wear it with something a bit more neutral, just so I don't have quite so much colour on my face. So I might just, ooh. So this is my powder brush that I'm just sort of going over just to take the edge off a little bit. Because that's a lot. That's better. That's toned it right down. Okay, there we go. There we go. It's very pigmented. It's very pigmented. So go in with a light hand. Absolutely. And if you do accidentally go overboard, just get your powder brush out and diffuse it all like I've just done, and that's worked a treat. Now it looks like it's meant to go together. There we go. Dark lights, what do I think? I think the stock images have not done this palette justice whatsoever. I really think the stock images have done this palette dirty, to be honest. I really like it. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know I'm always banging on about depth. I can't complain about lack of depth in this palette because it's all deep. But then at the same time, that might be a reason people don't like it. I know that a complaint, for example, of Celestial Charms is that that was too deep. And I don't know what it is about Beauty Bay. They seem to go to one extreme or the other. They can't seem to get it down the middle with a nice balance. I prefer it when they go too far towards the deep end because it works for me. But if you're of a lighter skin tone or your preference isn't for depth, this is perhaps not a colour story for you. I personally think that this is potentially a dream for someone who's got like medium, deep, dark skin tone, because all of these are going to work for you. So in that sense, it's a great palette, but it's also got to be the kind of colours that you like. If you're into pinks and greens and more magentas than, say, your aubergines, this wouldn't be the palette for you. But then obviously you wouldn't pick it up in that case. I like it. I do. I think it might be divisive. I don't think it's going to be everyone's cup of tea. But personally, I'm into it. I'm looking forward to seeing what looks I can get out with this. Would I prefer it to have a few more mattes? I do think 13 is excessive. I do. But I'm still not mad at it. I'm not. I don't think you need Electric and Until Sunrise, and I'm not sure you need All Nighter and Silhouette. And I think it was Afters and Late Night that I think maybe you don't need. So there are potentially 3 shimmers that they either could have made mattes or put different shimmers in. Not for everyone, definitely not. I think I would say I prefer this to Desert Haze colour story wise, just because I feel like I had Desert Haze already. But I was curious, and that's why I got Desert Haze. But this, as a curation of colours, I don't have something like this. So I'm pleased to have this. Probably more pleased, for example, to have this than Desert Haze. What are your thoughts on this palette? Are you team dark light? Do you think it's too dark? Or is this a colour story that you can get behind? And you've also got to consider it's quite seasonal, you know, it's holiday-y, it's night outy. In fact, I think there's a shade called Out Out, isn't there? Yeah. I think it's very of the season, and it's also somewhat Halloweeny. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to using this one more. I'm going to leave it there because I am supposed to catch a train in 10 minutes. I don't think that's going to happen, do you? No. But I need to get my skates on so I can at the very least get the train after that. Let me know your thoughts on Dark Lights down in the comments, because I just feel like this could be a love-hate situation, this palette. It's very Marmitey, I think, very Marmitey. So please let me know your thoughts. I will try and do a short actually comparing the Bouncy Beam shimmer sticks with the Danessa Myricks Colour Fix Duo sticks, because I think that could be interesting. So look out for a short comparing those. Okay. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye.